The whole thing about my dating life started with a person that I met through a networking party in New Jersey. And I sent him, everybody was supposed to send each other what they're looking for. He was looking for more clients, a lawyer was looking for more clients, an accountant's looking for more clients. I'm at the point in my life where I'm really not so much looking for more clients for laser vision correction surgery. I'm happy to do people, but I've done 20,000 cases. I don't need to do 20,001 cases. So I sent him an email saying, quite honestly, if you really ask me in my heart of hearts, what are you looking for? I'm mostly looking to find a really great woman to date, hopefully fall in love with, and settle down and have children. So I sent him that, and then he asked me what my criteria were, and I just cut and pasted something that I had given to a previous professional matchmaker. About 6 months later, he just posted the entire thing on his website. He has a website where he tries to sell advice about how to network or not network. And he was using my response as an example of bad networking. And it was really kind of unfair and really, to tell you the truth, not very nice, because I gave it to him in confidence and he just put it all over the internet. Now, we all know if you took anyone's email that was meant for private consumption and stuck it on the internet, the person could look like a jerk, okay? So based on that, that's when I started to get a lot of interview requests. And I think the first interview I took was CNN. On CNN, they kind of asked me about my dating life. I answered to that. I thought the interview was actually going to be about laser vision correction. They kind of misled me a little bit to get onto the show. So I was ambushed. That was the first interview I did. By the time Howard Stern called my office, I was a little more prepared, and we did think long and hard whether or not to take that interview. Now, when I was in high school, I was a big fan of Howard Stern, like a lot of adolescent guys, and I think he's a funny guy. I do think he gets a bad rap for being mean or crude. Howard's really not that way. He's a nice guy. He's just really honest, and the reason people find his brand of humor funny is he's willing to say things that other people just aren't willing to say, but they're thinking. And in that sense, we're probably similar, myself and Howard, because we're both overly honest to the point of blunt and even a little bit funny. So I decided to take the interview, and to tell you the truth, the interview with Howard went really well. I was very comfortable, and I thought he was very fair during the entire interview. So I guess maybe I got some flack for one of the criteria that says I tend to prefer dating skinny women. I'm pretty thin myself. I just was in the Tour de France recreationally last summer, and I dropped down to 125 pounds for that, just to be really fit. Last month I climbed up Kilimanjaro, and I dropped weight for that too, down to 129. So I think I'm more comfortable with a woman who's about my, body type, which, nothing to be wrong there. Now, one of the other things is that I did say that, quite frankly, I'm more attracted to non-Asian women, and I like diversity. I was born in New York, and I really do think that one of the best things about New York is you can learn about different cultures, and I like to experience things and learn things from my partner. So I got a little flack about that, but quite frankly, I'm comfortable with my what I'm looking for. I wasn't really offering money for dates. I think I was offering Botox or something like that, and it wasn't for the girl. So if you set me up on a date with someone, as a token of appreciation, I would give you like a Botox or like a Juvederm or some cosmetic procedure. I would even do laser vision correction if I wound up dating the girl seriously. It's really just because I went to NYU for my MBA, and my classmates were trying to set me up. But in business school, one of the things that they teach you is to always try to monetize every interaction. I don't really think it's necessarily the best way to do things, but it's not really negative either in some pejorative sense. They're just wanting to maybe have you put it at the top of their list. Everybody in New York is very busy, and if you say, hey, do you know any nice girls to set me up? They might think about it. If you say, hey, if you set me up, I'll give you like $100, maybe they actually do it. So that's how that got started. And to tell you the truth, I don't honestly think there's anything wrong with it. The reason I wanted a woman who's been outside of the United States is I'm very well traveled myself. I've lectured and traveled to about 65 countries, actually, both about laser vision correction and just as a tourist. I do think travel is a broadening experience, And a girl who's, let's say, has only been out of the United States to Canada, or she thinks foreign travel is like Cancun for spring break, I don't know if that's going to be compatible with me, because I'm very cosmopolitan and open-minded, and those are the kind of girls I'm interested in. To tell you the truth, a lot of my recent girlfriends have actually been from Europe. The media is trying to bait and switch me every time, and they say they're inviting me to come on the show about laser vision correction, and then they're asking me about my dating life. Now, if my dating life were so interesting, I don't know if I'd still be single. But what we're doing is we're just doing it back to them. And I say I'll go on your show and I'll talk about my dating life, but then I do want to talk about the non-cutting laser vision correction surgery, because there are millions of people out there who can be helped by it. Patients who maybe, let's say, couldn't get LASIK, and even the rare patient with a LASIK complication, non-cutting LASIK can fix or alleviate the vast majority of their symptoms. Dr. Oz recently had a show where he kind of panned LASIK, and it was really unfair. Now, LASIK is the non-cutting thing I specialize in. It's 10 times safer than LASIK, but LASIK is a very safe procedure. It's actually the safest cosmetic procedure of all. Safer than breast implants, nose job, even safer than liposuction, and quite frankly, safer than any cardiac procedure that Dr. Oz has ever performed himself. Dr. Oz had patients on his show after LASIK with some complications. Now, these are real patients with real complications, and to tell you the truth, he did them and the US public a disservice by saying that they're just screwed up for life. I'm clear that I can fix most of those patients with a LASIK on top of their prior LASIK. I actually wrote an article about this in the Journal of Cataract and Refractive Surgery, which is the #1 journal of its type in the world. My challenge to Dr. Oz is I can take any one of those patients, bring them to my office, do some non-invasive testing, show them a simulation that would show them exactly how they would see after LASIK, and I can make all of them see much better and get rid of most of their symptoms, and I will do this for free. So if you're really interested, Dr. Oz, in helping these patients and educating the public, rather than just scaring the public and giving these patients no hope, then you will take my challenge and I will see some of your patients and I will fix them for you. I've also become famous around the world for eye jewelry. I was the first surgeon to implant eye jewelry in anybody in the United States, and actually in all of the Americas, North, Central, or South. Now, eye jewelry has been done in Europe, particularly Holland, in several hundred patients. It's a very safe procedure and has zero chance of blindness because the piece of jewelry is actually outside of your eye. It's on top of the white part of your eye. I wanted to do this just to show that it's safe, to bring it to America, and also to be on the cutting edge, because at SafeSight, we're basically on the cutting edge of everything, and that's why we called it SafeSight Eye Jewelry. We're not really doing eye jewelry for any economic value. It's not germane to our business. We are a laser vision correction center. However, it is a way to get people interested, come to our site, and then learn about non-cutting LASIK. So we're kind of using the eye jewelry to get the world interested in us, and then we can tell the world that you can be fixed by LASIK, and you don't have to come to us. There are plenty of good LASIK surgeons around the world, and I've actually recommended some to patients from other parts of the world, and we don't necessarily want their money. We want to help them. We've had a lot of interesting responses to eye jewelry, including a famous actress, I can't really say who wanted a particular custom implant in her eye. Now, we can do custom implants. The implant she wanted was maybe like a corporate logo, and it's not Apple, but we can use Apple as an example. I could put a logo of Apple on somebody's eye, and it would be totally safe. I guess basically we would have to make a custom implant. And the reason they wanted to do this, I think it's for branding. Several years ago, I think there was a patient who had like a renaming of themselves, and a company paid for the entire procedure, and it was kind of sponsorship like that. So I think that's what they're going for, and I guess we could do that. We're looking into that. Look, from a medical point of view, it's no more dangerous to put in a logo than it is to put in a heart, okay? So that's not actually an issue. I guess we would have to consent the patient to make sure that they understood that it could you can have it removed at any time. And what they want to do in terms of the corporate sponsorship, I don't control that part of the patient. The patient would do that on their own. So I would say that with the right sponsor, with the right informed consent, I would be willing to do a corporate logo on someone's eye, should they be interested. I'm also one of the only surgeons in the United States who does perform eye tattoos. Now, these are not cosmetic tattoos. They're more functional tattoos. It's like for somebody who has a bad eye injury, and sometimes when you get like acid or lye or a burn in your eye, it makes the eye totally white and opaque. You wind up blind, but then you have a white eyeball. It doesn't look right. And then I can tattoo and have tattooed a pupil and an iris on, and it makes the person look like a normal person. The last patient I did an eye tattoo for was a driver for Ralph Lauren. And by Ralph Lauren, I don't mean the company. I mean he was the driver for Mr. Ralph Lauren. We are in New York on Park Avenue, and some of our clients are pretty prominent. So he wanted an eye tattoo because he had one of these injuries. One of his eyes was perfectly normal, and he saw normally, and you only need to see well out of one eye to be legal to drive. However, the other eye was blind and white, and I think he said that he was scaring some of his customers and lost some business because they request a different driver the next time. So that gentleman actually found our center because he was on the curb, pulled up and double parked, and he saw me doing surgery. We are actually the only center in the world, to my knowledge, with a all-glass, four-walled OR. And the reason we can do this is because we're doing the non-cutting procedure, not LASIK. When I was doing LASIK, I couldn't do that. Sometimes there are complications. We kind of wanted to show the world that the non-cutting procedure is so safe, we can't actually have a major complication in the operating room because we're not cutting anything at all, no flap. So he saw one of my procedures and thought it was interesting, saw that we were clearly high tech, and just walked in and asked, can we help him? Back when I was doing LASIK, we didn't have a glass operating room. When you're doing the procedure, you're essentially cutting the cornea in half. Sometimes there's a little bit of bleeding. It's not serious and it doesn't affect the vision, but it doesn't look so good. And rarely you can have a flap complication with the cutting step, and that is a major complication, and you don't want to be showing this to everybody. With LASIK, when I switched from LASIK to LASIK, we got rid of all the complications that are visually sight-threatening, and it's kind of like the open kitchen concept. We want to show the world that there's nothing to hide from the LASIK. It's totally safe, and there's nothing to be scared about. And to tell you the truth, having that last wall glass has helped our patients, and they do perceive that it's safer than LASIK, or we wouldn't be able to do that. Often people ask, how can you get people to agree to have their surgery watched by the public? First of all, medical legally, we do have them consent to this, but that doesn't answer the question why they're willing to. The reason they're willing to is most of them have actually seen a procedure of someone else's in my center beforehand. It makes them feel more comfortable, and they know what to do and what not to do. The reason I came up with this companion concept where they can watch is when I had my surgery done myself, I was the first LASIK surgeon in New York to get it done. I was nervous, and I had my girlfriend come into the operating room. I was allowed to do that because I was a surgeon. And afterwards I said, hey, that was a good idea. It really did help me. And I said, you know, I'll just do this for everybody. So everyone has a companion, and they have friends, and other people do watch. And it's kind of the concept of pay it forward. Like, you know, somebody was kind enough to let me watch their surgery, so how can I refuse to not help someone else? And that's pretty much why they're okay with it. So the personal driver for Mr. Ralph Lauren had a injury as a teenager. He gets attacked in a fight, and somebody broke a bottle in his eye, and he went blind, and it scarred, and it became basically all white. Now, if I had to guess as a corneal surgeon, I would say there are probably 10,000 people in America with that type of situation. If it's a very superficial scar, I can actually laser it off with LASIK and restore their vision, and medical insurance will pay for that. If it's really, really deep, you can't laser off the scar because then you'd have normal cornea. But like I said, I could tattoo something onto the cornea that looks like an eye, and I do that for patients, and they have been quite happy. Many patients with lazy eye are told that nothing can help them, and unfortunately that's not true. I just gave a talk in Milan last year at a big international congress where we reported the largest case series of successful treatments with LASIK for lazy eye. There are two types of reasons that you do have a lazy eye. one is your eyes crossed, and in that case you would straighten it. One is the prescription is so different than the other eye that you don't see well. Now, you can't tolerate two totally different prescriptions in glasses or contacts. It would make you crazy, and then therefore they just don't correct the lazy eye. However, I can eliminate that prescription with LASIK, and I've done it for probably about 30 people now, and they've all seen way better. They've actually all seen better after the LASIK than they saw in their best pair of glasses or contacts. So we can take a lazy eye, which is essentially blind and not useful, and make it into a useful eye. Now, will you see normal 20/20? No, and we consent the patient for that. However, they do report better peripheral vision, which is useful when they're driving because they can see now out of this side of the car, or they can see out of that side of the car, and maybe better stereo, and also better sports ability. So every patient that I lasered for lazy eye is very happy afterwards. They said they would do it again, and that's another instance where medical insurance would pay for it because it's a medical condition, not cosmetic. I learned about eye tattoo during my fellowship. So I did my residency in ophthalmology at Harvard. Afterwards, I was blessed to do my fellowship at Emory in Atlanta, and that was under two of the most famous eye surgeons in the world. George Waring is very, very prominent for refractive surgery, and I learned how to do LASIK from him. And then Doyle Stolting is a very prominent corneal surgeon. He's the past president of the American Society of Cataract and Refractive Surgeons, which is the largest, most prestigious organization of its kind in the world. He's the one who taught me how to do eye tattoo. And basically how you do it is you take a eye tattoo machine. I typically use one from a tattoo artist. Each needle is individual sterile. And then you have to use very, very fine needles. You have to decrease the oscillation of the needles to as slow as possible so you have the best control, and also oscillate as little as possible in terms of distance so you don't perforate the eye. And I've gotten good at the eye tattoo, and now I can do a perfect iris and a perfect pupil. And we actually had the tattoo artist custom mix the pigments in the surgery room so it matched his eye perfectly, his other eye. And afterwards, it was a great cosmetic appearance. Neither eye tattoo nor eye jewelry is FDA approved. Something not being FDA approved is not the same as it being disapproved. To tell you the truth, it really means that nobody bothered to apply for the application. The FDA process takes years and costs over $1 million. So unless you have a device that you're going to be selling to a lot of people, most people don't actually seek approval. The vast majority of drugs are actually used for many, many different purposes other than the one it's approved for, so that would be non-approved purpose. And to tell you the truth, almost every surgical procedure is not FDA approved because you can't really make money off of patenting a procedure. So just the fact that it's not FDA approved does not mean it's not safe. And to tell you the truth, for eye jewelry, there is zero risk of blindness. It's outside of the eye, and I wouldn't do a cosmetic procedure if it carried any risk of blindness. We had an agent of a rap star contact us, and what they wanted to do was do a tattoo on the white part of the eye and then put the jewelry on top, because right now you can't see the jewelry that well because it's a silver colored piece of platinum on top of the white sclera of the eye. I did tell them I could do a tattoo like pink or red or whatever background they wanted, and then I could put the heart, let's say, shape in front of that, and you would see it really well. The only problem with that is the tattoo portion would not be reversible. The eye jewelry, I can take that out in 5 minutes and it's totally safe, or swap it out with another implant. So as long as the patient's clear that the tattoo is not reversible and consents to it, then I guess that would be okay. But so far, I've really only done tattoos for, I guess, functional purposes, like somebody's missing the colored part of their eye, and not really for cosmetic purposes, at least not yet. Something that I'd really want to do sometime in the next year, hopefully, is be the first surgeon in the world to do laser vision correction on a dog. And this would not be an experiment. It would be to take a dog who doesn't see well because of nearsightedness or myopia and fix it. Now, when we were doing the FDA process, and I was a principal investigator for one of the FDA trials for one of the new lasers, we did use dogs for safety experiments, and dogs have been used for many years for many medical procedures, really just as safety. The dogs and the species don't benefit, okay? That just benefits humans. Now, I'm a big, big dog lover. I've always had dogs my whole life, And I really want to help the dogs, not just use them. So we did do different trials on different dogs. We have found nearsighted dogs, and we want to choose the right nearsighted dog to laser and make them see better. It's true dogs can't tell you which is sharper, number 1 or number 2, but because I own a really big laser vision correction center on Park Avenue, we have like hundreds of thousands of dollars of machines that can objectively measure your prescription. In other words, before I laser you, I'm not asking you which is better, 1 and 2, and just going with 2. We have very good machines that measure your eye, tell us exactly what the prescription is, and I have put different dogs in, and it's interesting, it varies based on species. So if you have a dog that's a terrier, they're actually supposed to be a little bit nearsighted because they're going into holes and trying to look for rats and they need maybe up close vision. As opposed to like a pointer, they're supposed to be hunting, so they really should be a little bit farsighted or hyperopic. However, after having examined about 30 dogs, some of the dogs are not actually the right prescription for their function. So I used to have a corgi, for instance. He's a herder. He should be a little bit farsighted to look for the sheep or the wolves or whatever. He was a little bit myopic. I did put a contact lens in to see if that would help his vision. It only helped a little bit. So what we want to do is find a dog who's very nearsighted, put the contact lens in, prove that they would see better so they would get a functional benefit, and then laser them. And if anybody out there has any dogs that are young, not old dogs, because they might be cataracts, and they don't see well, just bring them to the center and we'll evaluate them for free. And the laser would be free too, by the way. We don't want to make money off of this. We just want to prove that it can be done so that we can help dogs and other animals in the past, in the future, later on too. I got laser vision correction about 15 years ago, and I see well in the daytime. At nighttime, it's not so great. I'm also getting older, so I do need more help reading. Most people don't know that you can actually get laser to get rid of your reading glasses, and most people don't know that you can get LASIK to fix a previous LASIK, especially for bad night vision. So I'm planning actually on lasering myself. I will be the only surgeon in the world to ever laser himself. And again, the only reason I can do this is because I'm doing LASIK, which is a non-cutting procedure. It'd be totally insane for me to try to cut a flap on my own eye. So to do this, I will prove to the world that you can fix LASIK with LASIK, and I will prove to the world that LASIK is so safe that I can even laser myself. And the real message is so people know that LASIK is another option for them if they can't get LASIK.